How's it going, folks? Thank you all for coming in today. I'm just hanging out in the shop, doing a little rearranging. I gotta get my fan going. Hopefully it's not too loud. Try to get some air moving through here. I got dirt dauber's nest in here. There we go. Now we got some air moving in here. Just thought I'd bring you all in here today to the shop for a little bit. I got to do a lot of rearranging, trying to get stuff ready for cooler weather so I can make some more knives and different things. Hi, Chew. Hi, Ken. So, those of you that don't know, June 21st and 22nd, 2025, we're going to be doing an event. Clay and Jen from the Rusty Magnet's going to be hosting an event in Wisconsin to raise money for Shriners Children's Hospital. So I've got a couple things I've made so far for the event. So here's one of them. Here's this cross I've made out of railroad spikes. Hi, Weldon Carey. So there's a cross I've made so far. Here's another cross. If I can get the stuff off of it. It's been sitting out here a while, so I'll have to clean it up. But here's another cross that I made. And this here was one solid piece of metal. I had to cut it a certain way, turn it halfway, cut it the other way. That's how we got the hole in it. And hammered it all out. Hi, Caitlin. Thanks for coming in. Hi, Jody. Appreciate y'all coming in. And here's something else that I made that I'll be taking to the event next year. It's for your hat or coats, jackets. Little moose. I will be working on some knives. I'm about to get attacked by wasps. They're everywhere out here. So my plan is to try to make a knife. Hi, Eric. Hi, Dog. Thank you all for coming in. I do appreciate it. Hi, Cat. I got these warthog tusk, and I'm going to try to make these handles for a knife that I'm going to make. Hi, Josh. Hi, Case. Thank all you people for being in here. Anybody that's new in here, I would appreciate it if you'd sub. I do magnet fishing, metal detecting. Sometimes I do some forging. Hi, Mystic. Hi, All Things Country. I do some forging also. Make knives. Something else I'm going to work on, which I'll probably go live. It's going to have to be cooler weather. Most of my stuff I do with the coal forge. I do have a propane forge, but I mostly use the coal. This hammer was found by Clay from the Rusty Magnets in Wisconsin. We were up there. I will forge this out, make this a hatchet. This will turn into a hatchet head. This will turn into a spike. So I'm looking forward to forging that out. I don't think I have any knives out here right offhand that I've forged. I think my wife's got them all in the house. I do some Damascus. Mostly cable Damascus. Here's a piece of cable I've got welded up, ready to forge. I've got a piece somewhere. That's why I got to rearrange this shop. I got so much stuff. Here's a piece that I've forged out. I got to do a little more hammering on it, but this will be a cable Damascus knife that I've worked on. My biggest problem is I get too many projects started. Here's a horseshoe knife that I've started, but I haven't finished it yet. I've got 3 of those laying over here. And when we were in Wisconsin this year, I found my first picaroon. I cleaned it up some, starting to rust through, so I'm going to have to oil it again. That was a bucket list find for me. I've got 2 more over there I've got to clean up. Excuse me. Like I say, I got to get this thing cleaned up. The wasp took it over because anybody that forges, hi Clay, hi love. That's awesome, Weldon Carey. So here's a couple other knives I've been working on. Got to finish up. The little grandson already spoke for this one. I got to get it finished for him. I just have the shape of it. I still got to do all the beveling and make the handle, and he wants a cedar handle on it. I asked him if he wanted walnut or cedar. I showed him the 2 and he picked. Hi Wicked Digger Chris. Hi Jessica. He picked the cedar, so I've got to finish that up for him. Got a couple more knives over here I'm working on. Going to try to get done for the event next year. These are leaf spring, both of these. But anytime I come out here this time of weather, of course it's not too bad today. It gets entirely too hot out here. So I can't stay out here long. It's not too bad today. Trying to look for some other stuff. I found this knife and I did a little short on it because if you've seen it before and then you see it after, there's a big difference. Hi Angel. So it's just a little one that I cleaned up. It was all rusted and I repurposed it. Got it going. The handle looks 100% better than it did. Here's another knife. It's starting to rust back up, but this knife was actually found by Danny Dip. He sent it with me to clean it up for him. So if he ever gets back a hold of me. Hi Arhan, thank you for coming in. Hi Trey. Yeah, if you guys haven't subbed, I'd appreciate it, and check out these other channels in here. There's a lot of great YouTube channels in here. Hi T. Yeah, I know you love knives, Weldon Carey. I do too. I'll make something out here and my wife will be like, can you make another one? I'm like, probably. Why? Because I'm taking that one. So we have a lot of them in the house. Hi, Fanham. But yeah, I do appreciate you guys dropping by. Because I got a new shelf over here that Risha donated me. And I got a bunch of little metal bins out there. I've got to rearrange everything because when I got into blacksmithing, bladesmithing, I didn't think I'd ever find enough metal to start. So I was grabbing every piece of metal I could get, lawnmower blades, anything. Now I have so much stuff that it's overwhelming, so I need to thin out some of the lesser quality steel that I have. That's awesome, Weldon Carey. Yeah, Wicked Digger. That guy finds some awesome stuff. He's a great detectorist. Hi, Steven. Stephanie, sorry. Doing good, thank you. And yourself? Hi, Jack. Yeah, Chris, Weldon Carey shows a lot of different knives, different brands, talks about them, and it's pretty cool what he does. I'm gonna look around, see if I can find something else to show y'all. Like I say, I've got so many projects going. Right now, my main thing is to try to get stuff ready for the event next year. I'm trying to get a jump start on it because it'll be here before I know it. And like I said earlier, those of you that just come in, I do have these 2 warthog tusks. So I'm hoping at least one of them I get a knife made to go in that as a handle. I'll have that at the event. And anybody that's interested in going to the Trash for Cash event 2025, everybody's welcome. If you've never thrown a magnet and if you want to try it, there's going to be all kinds of people there that's got magnets you can borrow, or if you just want to come hang out, there will be some waffles where you have a chance at winning prizes. Thank you, Clay. I thought I seen another knife I was working on over here, but I guess not. I got stuff scattered everywhere in here. Here's a horseshoe heart that I made. I've made I don't know how many. Hi, J. Paul. Of these horseshoe hearts. This one's a little different. The way I did it, most of them I have both sides meeting coming down, but I just tried something a little different. I also have, and I've made these before and I've sold them all. I take a claw hammer, I'll make a hatchet out of this end of it, and I'll take these claws and I'll kind of separate them, hammer them down some, I'll twist them, put a point on them, it'll look kind of like ram horns when I'm done with it. I know I got more stuff laying around here, it's just finding it. There's a horseshoe heart I made when I first started making them till I found a different way to make them. Risha kind of decorated it up a little bit. I gotta clean this back up. It's been in the box for a while, but it's a fillet knife. I've made several of these fillet knives and I use them myself. And I work with a guy that I think it's a buck or something fillet knife he has. He paid a lot of money for. I made him one and give it to him just to try, and he likes it way better than he does the one that he give a lot of money for. Thank you, Jessica. I don't know if Risha happens to pop in out here in a little bit. Maybe she'll bring a knife or two from the house that I've made. I've got some cable Damascus knives in the house that I made that it's hard to even consider getting rid of. I don't think I will. At some point I'm going to make some knives that's alike for all the kids, you know, to pass down at some point. If you guys would, somebody take care of that person right there. Punk, I'm working too. I know you are. She's working on a project in the house and she's doing a great job on it. If you haven't checked out Bone Dead Heathens, that's my wife. Thank you, Clay. We're a family-friendly show and YouTube channel, so we don't put up with things like that. We don't know when there's going to be children watching, and what we do is clean up the waterways and the land for future generations, our kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. We want the world to be a better place than it was when we started. We've cleaned up tons and tons, all these channels in here, of scrap out of the water and the detectorists. We pulled up tons of scrap out of the ground, cans, all kinds of trash, cleaning up the environment. Well, it is right at noon right here where we're at. We're in Central Standard Time. There's another funny person right there. Hi, love.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. There you go.
Thank you. Show a few more of the knives I've made. Here's one I made out of a saw blade. Some of these, thank you, Stephanie. Here's one that's Damascus. I've got to oil them back up. I don't know if you can see the pattern in it up there. Here's my favorite one. You can see the Damascus pattern in it a lot better. And everybody tried to steal it, so I put my initials on the bottom of it. Here's another one. I keep these in my yeah, Janelle, I don't go to pool halls. I don't go to bars. I don't do none of that. Thank you. I don't drink. I don't smoke. You can ask these people in here. So we do our best to clean up the world for the future. That's about all the things I see. Here's another knife I've been working on, off and on for a long time, but when I started it, I just started forging, so I've got a lot of work to correct it, but I'm trying to make an alligator out of this, and then I'm going to have, go ahead and put a double edge on it. But I've got to straighten it back out. I've got a lot to do with it. Like I say, I started that when I very first started forging, and I've learned a lot. Of course, you never stop learning, and every piece of metal is totally different when you start working it. Thank you, Ken. I missed your comment, all things country, but yeah, there's wasp everywhere. There's a big old giant wasp nest up in the top. Probably got 20 wasps on it, but we got a pretty high ceiling in here. Those are red wasps up there. They'll get you. These other little wasps around here, I'm not worried about them. But I will try to take you out of here and show you a little bit. If I can remember how to switch the camera around. Who is? Did they say when it's going to be? Here's my anvil that I use. I thought they were already over 1,000. And sitting out there is my coal forge, my crank. Over there is my propane forge. Like I say, I don't use it a lot. I've got all kinds of hammers. I got piles of hammers laying here. Like I say, when I first started, I thought, man, I ain't going to get enough metal. And now I'm overrun with metal. Working on different projects. Clay, when you and Jen come out, there's the view you'll wake up to every morning. Out across there. As you can see, you can't see another house any direction. But here's part of our scrap pile from all of our magnet fishing. It's a pretty big pile. There's a lot of stuff in there. It gets cool, we're going to haul that off. See how much scrap we got there. And the weeds have overtaken all of this, but inside of there is where I started collecting all my steel for forging and stuff. And some of the stuff we found magnet fishing, there's a lot of signs and things in there. Big old chunks of railroad steel that the guy gave me, which will make good knives, but those are hard to work out being that big. It's crazy. No, I got plenty metal, Ken. But over here is all these little trays that she's got for me to go in that rack to organize my stuff. I'll organize all this, then next thing I know, there's the rack I'm going to put those trays in. Next thing I know, it's in disarray again. Here's a few of the pliers that we pulled out. Magnet fishing, hey Brockton, I have no shortage of pliers for magnet fishing. Now if I can put you all back up here without turning you off. My phone just barely fits in this thing. Seems like the phones get bigger and bigger every year. Of course, I get older and older every year, and the bigger phones help me see. Yeah, that's a lot of pliers. That's just the ones I kept. Some of them, they're scattered around here. I probably got 40 pairs, and that's not counting all the ones that I've cleaned up, my dad's taken, and plus the ones that were too far gone to do anything with. But probably, hey Don, how you doing, buddy? I'm thinking when I go to forge this out, I might go live. I probably won't stay live for the whole thing because it'll take a while. When you look how thick that piece is, it takes a while to hammer that down. But it'll stay hot for a while, and the thinner it gets, the quicker it starts cooling off. And when I make my handles, I have like this piece of walnut right here. I'll cut that out make my own handles. But a lot of these things, when you go to buy a knife, there's a difference between a handmade knife and a hand forged knife. So this knife I made out of a saw blade. So basically I cut the pattern out, I heated it up, I put a bevel on it, put an edge on it, and then I reheated it, quenched it, tempered it. So that's basically a handmade knife. A lot of people, hi Jersey loves Steph, thank you. A lot of people will have some really, really nice looking knives, some nice looking Damascus knives, and they will say handmade, which means you can go online. Hi Jake. You can go online, you can buy the blade itself, you can buy the handle, you can buy all the components, and you can put it together, and you have a handmade knife. This knife is a hand forged knife. Now, that big piece of cable I showed you earlier is what this started out as. And then I had to hammer it down, you see how thin it is, shaped it, did all that to it. So this is a hand forged knife. This cable knife, the man that showed me has been doing knives for 35, 38 years. So a lot of times I will see a cable or a Damascus knife in a flea market or something for $60, $80. I would not even consider that. And he told me these knives here, he wouldn't take less than 350 plus. Because these are actual hand forged knives. There are companies that you can buy all the blades that's already been forged, like I say, and you can put it all together and make your own knife. But you have a handmade knife, you don't have a hand forged knife. And when we put those in the flea market, she specifically writes handmade or hand forged. So if it's handmade, you know I cut it out of a saw blade and went that route with it. If it says hand forged, I actually put it in the forge, hammered it out, did all that work. So here's just a sketch that I drew out on this saw blade here. I'll draw this out, then if I decide I want to go ahead and go with this shape, I will cut this out. Once I cut it out, I'm going to put it in the forge, heat it, take all the temper out of it to where I can work it, because it's going to be hard to try to file it or put an edge on it. Once I get it so close to having an edge on it with about 1/16 of an inch left on the blade side, on the sharp side, then I will heat it, I'll quench it in oil, I'll put it in the oven and temper it. Then I'll put the final edge on it. But this would be considered a handmade knife because it's not been forged out, even though I still have to use my forge to make it what it needs to be. I've got blades laying everywhere that I've been working on. Here's another blade that all needs cleaned up and made into a finished product. And these two are also out of saw blades, so these would be handmade knives, not hand forged knives. And something else I do, if you don't get your temper right, the blade becomes really brittle. So when I get done with the tempering process, yes, forged is making from scratch. Hi, Sue. Oh, yes, I've definitely hurt myself making them. Hi, Alyssa. ZZ Top. I was forging one day, and it felt like a bee stung me up on the shoulder. and it just kept stinging. And what happened was a piece of slag come off when I was hammering, and it landed up there. And I don't know if you can see, if I can get it in the camera, but there's a white spot where it burnt through my shirt up here and burnt me. And one of the things you really got to watch when you're messing with stuff like this, because I've seen people do it in videos, I've seen people do it in real life. The guy that originally started showing me how to forge, there was a group of people forging, and when you drop something, your first instinct is to grab it. And there was a guy grabbed a piece of hot metal and burnt the tar out of himself. So that's the hardest thing, is to break yourself if something falls, to not try to catch it or grab it. So luckily I haven't done that yet. I try to keep that, battle scars. I try to keep that in the back of my mind all the time when I'm forging. Not to grab a piece of metal, because I drop it all the time. It's nothing unusual. I've had it drop and just, in fact, I was forging one day. Seems like I was working on a horseshoe heart, and I hit it, and when it did, it come out of my tongs, and it flew up and it hit me on the belly, just bam, fell on the floor. It burnt my stomach, and it put a hole through my shirt in just that split second that it hit me. I wear safety glasses when I'm forging, and I have a leather apron that I wear. Sometimes I have boots on, sometimes I don't, but I try to be, no, it's not for kids. I try to definitely watch what I'm doing. So as far as tongs, there's tons of different styles. This one here, if you're working on something with kind of a round stock, you can put it in there. I use this some on railroad spikes because I can kind of hold them. But a buddy of mine is a farrier, and he had a pair of farrier's tongs that one of the ears was broke on it. So what I did was cut the other one off. And now I can take a railroad spike and put in there, and it holds it perfect. And then these are the ones I usually use. You can see that they're flat for my flat stock. That's what I usually use to hold that stuff. And grab it like that and hold it. It's not holding that real well, but that's a pretty thin piece. I have other styles. I bought a bunch of them at different places when I first started. Here's another pair that before I built my other ones, I would use these to hold my railroad spikes. And they work pretty good until you hammer the spike down a little bit. Then the spike wants to move around in there, so it makes it a little more difficult. Here's another pair that I use sometimes. It'll hold spikes, things like that. And there's a ton of different varieties of hammers. Different styles, different sizes. When I start on that ball peen hammer to make a hatchet out of it, I will start with this guy. I don't know what it weighs, but it probably weighs about 3 pounds. I'll start with that. When I start getting the metal thinner, I will drop down to this one. It probably weighs about 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. And as I go along, I'll drop sizes of hammers when the metal starts getting thinner. And here's another one that took me forever to find. found it in a flea market. These are hard to find, and this is called a flattening hammer. So what you do when you get your metal so far down or you're close to done, you lay your blade on the anvil, which has a flat surface. You take this flat surface, lay on top of it, then you hit this side with your hammer, and all the little dents and dings, it helps take all of that out of there. It's almost a two-person job, but I do it by myself a lot. Every once in a while, Risha will come out and hold a hammer for me or something, but she's kind of scared of the forge. Not so much the coal forge, but the propane forge, because it sounds like a jet taking off whenever you're doing that. Not right now, Stephanie, I don't. I'm in Missouri, Alyssa. I live in Missouri. I've thought about a website. One thing I decided when I first started making knives is not to do custom knives. I've done 2 custom knives for a buddy of mine, one for him, one for his wife. And I made him draw the knife out, and I followed the pattern that he wanted. And the main reason I don't do custom is because, let's say, Arky Treasure Hog's there, hey, I want this knife, and he tells me what he wants, so I make the knife. And he says, that's not exactly what I wanted. Because the vision he has in his head when he's explaining to me may not be the same vision I get from listening to his description. So it may not match what he wants. Then he's like, well, I don't want that one because that's not just what I wanted. Okay, I've got a lot of time in a knife that I thought he was going to buy that he isn't. I can probably sell it to somebody, but I just prefer to make them the way I want. If people like it, they can buy them. If not, they don't. But I don't do a website because for me, this is fun. I don't want it to be a job. And if I get a website, then I'm going to have to produce so many and make sure I keep it stocked up. And like I say, when it's 90 degrees outside, 98 degrees, and you're on a 2,degree forge out in this shop, it's just a metal shop with a metal roof, and it gets really hot out here. So I try not to do that, and I want to do it at my own pace. But I've got so many hobbies now. Like I say, we metal detect, we magnet fish, I forge, we go fishing, we go camping, we do all kinds of different things, and I don't want to have it become a job. It's like we enjoy doing YouTube. Risha, don't know how you cope. Yeah, even at 80 degrees out today. In the winter time, it can be 40 degrees out here, and I'm in a shirt just like this because that forge gets hot. And I don't allow the grandkids or anybody like that out around it when I'm forging, because sometimes that coal will pop and there'll be pieces shoot out. So yeah, she's more of a AC kind of gal like me, Sue. Yeah, I like my AC too, and where I work, it's basically like I'm out here, so I get that 5 and 6 days a week. So yeah, you stay by me next to that in the winter. Yeah, I used to not care for the cold as much, but as I get older, the heat just kills me. I got overheated a few years ago to the point I wasn't sweating anymore, because I used to haul hay and work out in heat all the time. And now When it gets a certain temperature, it just completely drains me. But I hope that anybody's interested in the event next year. Like I said, it's going to be in Wisconsin, June 21st, 22nd. We're Clay and Jen, we've all talked about it, and we're thinking that we may possibly go to 2 different locations. Hi, Jeremy. And Steph leaving. Thanks for coming in. We're thinking we might possibly have 2 different locations for the event. One day, one another. They're 2 different directions. So probably staying around Fond du Lac, Wisconsin would be the best choice. That's where Clay and Jen live. That's going to be where most people are going to hang out after the event of the evenings and things. Just hang out and visit and have a great time. It's a good time every year that we go up there. What? Tagging, broski. Check that out, Mock. I don't know if I've showed you this before or not. Oh, I've already showed you that knife. Well, I have piles and piles of stuff here everywhere. I've got to get it organized. That was my goal starting out today, was to try to get this organized somewhat. I'll get it organized and I'll set something down. Next thing I know, I got a couple things piled there. Oh, we look at that. Just look at it. Let's see. I've got a whole bucket over here. Like I said, I got a buddy that's a farrier. And when he uses these rasps and they're no good no more, he gives them to me. And those make a really good knife. I have no idea, to be honest, how many knives I have made since I started. I've sold several. I've given away several. Last year at the event, I can't remember. I think I had 20 or 30 horseshoe knives, plus a bunch of other knives. I probably had 30 to 40 knives I took to the event last year. And I don't plan on taking that many knives this year. I'm going to take some of you may not have seen these yet, but I'm going to take this cross that I made out of railroad spikes. These are just old railroad spikes that I've found. I'll be bringing this cross. I know, Ken, you said you liked the cross. Which cross did you like the best? The railroad spike cross or the other cross? Like I say, that one cross that I showed you, the second one, was this a square piece of metal, and you have to cut it so far a certain direction, turn it halfway, cut it up past the other direction, then you have to heat it and unfold it, and that leaves that hole in the center. And I have this. I have another one of these made. I will have to put on the wire wheel and put some oil on it. So I might end up bringing 2 of these. And over to the side here, I've got probably 10 or 12 of the old big sawmill blades. They make really good knives. Hey AAP, how you doing, brother? Thank you for stopping in. It's good to see you. I was just showing some of the stuff I make, Luke, out here in my shop, some of the knives and different things. Ken, if you answered, I did not see it, buddy. The spike cross. And we find a lot of railroad spikes when we're out magnet fishing. Yeah, it's good to see you, Luke. I hope Becca and the boys and everybody's doing good. Well, last year for the event, these are nails that we found on a bridge by the railroad tracks. And what I did was I twisted the handle up here, and then I hammered these out, and I made little swords out of them. Yeah, that was some of them I took up there last year. But I want to try to focus on making a couple nice knives instead of a big bunch of knives. And I know there's going to be a lot of prizes next year. Thank you, Jeremy. So we don't want to overwhelm with prizes, but we want to have some quality prizes. Yeah, Luke, next year, June 21st and 22nd, we're going to have a Trash for Cash in Wisconsin for Shriners Hospital, Children's Hospital. And the main area we're going to be staying around is Fond du Lac. So you and Becca and the boys get a chance, come show up. You ain't got enough magnets. There's going to be people there with plenty of magnets. See you, Mark. Good luck, brother. I thought about going magnet fishing today, and we got up, and it's just been a let's just hang around the house day, because we're usually on the go. Let me go, whoa, see if I can. Okay, that is, Stephanie, that's cable Damascus. So this right here is a giant piece, I believe it was elevator cable. So you see what it looks like there. So this is the beginning stage. I'm not quite finished with this. I've got to do a little more hammering. It's still a little bit thick. I'm going to hammer it down some more, but then once I hammered it, it gets flattened out. Like I say, I've got to hammer it down about half of that thickness again. So let me go back a little bit, because I don't mind trying to explain things. So I have this piece of cable. I'll put this in the forge, and it's going to burn a bunch of oil out of it. Oil's going to burn out of it. I take borax and put in here that helps once it's hot. Hi, Georgianne. Once it's hot, the borax helps boil all the rust, dirt, grime out of all of that. And I'll get it hot. I'll put borax on it. I'll get it hot again. I'll do that 2 or 3 times. And then I'll get the whole thing hot. I will clamp it in the vise down here. I'll grab it up here with the pipe wrench, and I will twist it just as tight as I can twist it. And that'll make it smaller. Then I will heat it up again, and I'll try to twist it, and it'll get to a point where it just don't want to twist anymore. And once I do that, then I have to look at how this is turned, and I heat it, I get it hot, and then I start hammering it. And I have to turn it as I hammer it, so I'm going with this as I'm hammering it. And you can tell when it's welded, because it goes from being kind of a soft thing to like a solid thud. Hi, Charlie. So you know that it's welded. Once I get it all twisted and welded, then I start flattening it out like that other bar. And once I flatten it out, I've got sanders here that I will sand it down, make sure that it's all forge welded. Then I will usually draw me a pattern on there that I want. And after I draw the pattern, I'll take a grinder and I'll cut the pattern shape out that I want. Then I go back to the sander, I will bevel the edges. I've made me a beveling jig now. I did all this before with a sander, but I've made a beveling jig now that's a board that I can clamp it down, and I've got a file and it will hold a consistent bevel all the way around it. And I'll bevel it down to where the blade itself is about a 1/16 wide. And I will heat it up to where it's non-magnetic. I got a little magnet, make sure it's non-magnetic. I heat my oil, I quench it in oil, clean it off, then I put it in the oven and I temper it. And once I do that, I will come back and put my final edge on it. Then I have an acid over here that I put it down in the acid. When you put it in the acid, it makes all those different lines come out. And they're all different, just like these are all out of the same cable. But as you can see on this one, if I can get it turned right, it's still got all the lines in it, but the lines are different. Now this one here I did at home by myself. This one here was with a man with 30 plus years experience. He didn't do it, but he was guiding me through the whole process, teaching me. And he's got a big gas forge, 4-burner. Mine's just a 2-burner. And we used his acid, so his acid may have been a little stronger than mine or a little weaker, I don't know. Oh, you're welcome. I don't mind explaining it to... Yeah, as far as I know, that's elevator cable. You can take smaller cable, but the smaller the cable, the smaller the bar you have. And I've got some smaller cable, and I haven't done it yet, but I plan on taking individual strands of the smaller cable and twisting it and hammering it flat, and then try to lay them. If I got this one twisted this way, I want this one twisted this way, and lay them opposite, so the lines will be going all different directions. Thank you, Jody. Charlie, I don't know about you sometimes. I guess I haven't heard about that. But there's a lot of work, and that's why I was saying earlier, if you go to a flea market and there's a Damascus knife there for $60, $80, either they got a big outfit with a lot of expensive tools, or they are something they bought because I think it's in Oregon or up that direction somewhere. There's a company that makes, you can buy just the blank Damascus steel and put your own pattern in it, cut it out and do all that, or you can buy the blade that's ready to just assemble. And if you mass produce that, yeah, you can do it cheaper. But for me to hand forge that knife, I have no idea how many hours I have in that knife. And somebody told me that you can figure as a bladesmith, when you sell a knife, you're getting about $2.50 an hour for your labor. Hey, Charlie's going live tonight. Make sure you check out Miss Charlie. We got 18 awesome people in here and 29 thumbs up. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate that. But I just thought I'd go live while I was out here in the shop, give you guys a little bit of idea what I do out here and what to look forward to next year's event. And I got to be honest, if I get this knife done with one of these warthog tusks, it's going to be hard for me to let it go. I've got two tusks. They're shaped a little bit different. So I have to make the back of the blade where it'll fit down inside this. And it's only going to go to about right here. So it's not going to have a lot of metal in there, but I've got to come up with some kind of filler. I'm thinking about 2-part epoxy or something and filling that and then putting the blade in, and I will put a pin in it. Trying to figure out what kind of a guard that I actually want to put on these, because I will have a guard on them. But there's hours upon hours of work involved in these things. There are people that do it for a living, that they've got thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Yeah, they're wild. Risha and I went to an event, I think 2 years ago, and they had some of those in a thing, so I bought a couple of them just to see if I could do that. Yeah, maybe, Sue. There's a crazy case regarding a double unalive on the nudist colony. It was the neighbor that lived less than 10 feet away. They found him after SWAT tore the whole front of his house off. That's crazy. Yeah, underground bunker with tunnels. That's crazy, Charlie. I'll see if I can talk. I'll try to spin you guys around. You just have to excuse the shop. There's my polisher buffer over there. There's my, if I can see it, there's my grinder. Here's one of my sanders. There's another one. And I have a little drill press, and I have a little bandsaw, another buffer over there. Took me a second to realize where those antlers come from. Hi, Mike. It's my brother-in-law there, Mike Barnes. Good to see you, Mike. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, it's a mess in here, Charlie. But at some point in time, I will use all of it. Everything's covered in spider webs. But through the summer, I just really don't come out here much because it's just entirely too hot. But I got this. I will make a couple of knives out of that. You have to get it hot, unwind it, flatten it all out. But I will make some knives out of that at some point in time. And I go through a lot of belts on the sander too. One guy told me not to get Harbor Freight sanding belts because they just didn't last, and I've bought high dollar sanding belts and I've had actually better luck with the Harbor Freight ones, and they're a whole lot cheaper. Yeah. Well, like I said, I gotta go through this and thin some of the stuff out because I just spotted another cross that I might bring to the event. When I first started out, it was hard to find metal anywhere. And then as time went by, I've had people give me, one guy changed the leaf springs out on the back of his truck, both sides. He's like, "You want those?" I said, "Yeah, what do you want for them?" "Well, make me a fillet knife." I made him a fillet knife. And leaf springs makes really good knives. Probably one of the best steels out there is a coil spring off of a railroad car. Hi, Mary. This is another cross I might bring to the event. The first one I ever made, I made for my mom. And I was going to put it on her headstone, and I was afraid somebody would steal it, so I got it in the house. But I got this one. It's made out of horseshoes. I might bring that to the event, possibly, if anybody has any interest in that. Anything I can do to help raise money for a charity, I do what I can. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, All Things Country. Thank you, Georgianne. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Charlie. Now this cross here, the first one I ever made, now this one here I got welded at the bottom. The first one I ever made, I took a punch, put a hole in here, and I put the metal all the way through the bottom and braided it, and I also welded it, and I gave it to my mom for Christmas a few years ago. And then in January of that next year, just a month later, she passed away. So that one that I made her, my dad asked if I wanted to put it in her casket with her, and I said yes. So that will be with her forever. It wasn't quite as big as that one, but hi, Mark. What's one of the biggest things you've made? Probably the moose. I have made some pretty big knives. I've made some knives that's probably 14, 16 inches long. I have a blade over here, something I'm going to attempt. I don't know that the metal is thick enough. Thank you, Jody. Yeah, T, that meant a lot to me. I don't know if the metal is thick enough. If I can get it out of the ground. Well, I thought this was the piece, but I think it's too thin. This may not be the one I'm thinking of. But I got this piece of a saw blade. And I'm thinking about turning that whole thing into like a sword, which it'll be pretty flimsy. You wouldn't want to go out swinging it, trying to cut stuff with it, but just for a conversation type piece, I think that would be pretty good, pretty cool. And I think I can do it. See, these blades naturally have temper in them. So when you heat them, you take the temper out. I have a bucket over there with a bunch of ashes out of our wood stove, like the files and Farrier rasp, things like that. The springs, I'll get them up to where the magnet don't stick, and I'll put them down in those ashes, and it lets the metal cool down really slow, and it takes the temper out of it. So it makes the metal softer, it's easier to work. Then, like I said, you got to heat it back up, the magnet don't stick, quench it in oil, then you put it in the oven and put the temper back in it. And I was going to say something earlier and I just remembered. When I make a knife, I will hold it up about chest high and drop it on concrete, because sometimes when you temper them, they're brittle. Knock on wood, so far I've never had any break. But if I drop it on concrete and it just bounces, I drop it flat, not on the edge, and it just bounces, I know it's got a good temper in it. If it ever shatters, I know that the temper was no good. I got a buddy that has a neighbor that was actually on the show Forged in Fire, and he had a knife that he turned down, I forget now, it was an ungodly amount of money that he had made because he makes a lot of fancy knives. and he put it over his fireplace. But one day it fell. When it hit the floor, it shattered into 100 pieces. And he's like, I don't know why I did that. I said, because his temper was no good. If it had been tempered good, it would have never broke. And I've also thought about making a knife. I've never done it or attempted it, but I've seen it done on Forged in Fires where I've seen it. Thinking about making a knife, doing a little video and try to shoot it and see if it'll split the bullet without breaking the knife. Yeah, bounce back at you. We're having a good day, Mark. I hope you are too. Beard light's coming over. Uh-oh. It means I've got to fight. Thank you, Charlie. I try to explain I mean, there's a lot I don't know. But I try to explain what little I do know. And I know Bucky at some point's wanting to come down and have me help teach him how to make knives. And yeah, I'll have to watch my back, Sue. Because he'll either have his little Nerf guns out, or he'll have his Spider-Man costume on, or we'll be outside throwing a frisbee, or you just never know. With that guy, and it changes on a dime. We can go from a Nerf gun war to we're chasing each other to we're outside looking for bugs, or just never know what direction he's going to go. But yeah, Bucky's wanting me to try to help teach him how to make knives, which I'm more than happy to. I know there's some people out there, which I guess I kind of understand. They're like, well, I don't want to show anybody anything because then they're going to be doing what I'm doing and selling and taking away from me. And I don't look at it that way, because I know there's a lot better knife makers out there than I am. Hi, Corey. But I also know I'm better than some others. There's some people out there that make some incredible stuff. But everything you see what I got in the shop, I mean, there's people that's got, $20,000 power hammers, and the sander that I would really like to have is about $2,800. And I'm like, I can't turn this to $2,800 for a sander. Yeah, it's passing on a dying art. But I don't feel competition. The guy, now not the man with 30-some years experience, because he sells knives for $10,000 plus. He's incredible. But the guy that originally started showing me, he showed me, well, we went to that event, and I was there probably 4 or 5 hours, and he was teaching me some stuff, and I was watching other smiths and what they were doing. And a lot of my stuff has been just learning by doing it. So one day I asked him a question, because we went to another event after I'd been bladesmithing for maybe a year. We went to another event, we both set up, and people were buying my knives and not buying his, and he just kept getting madder and madder and madder and madder. And I would ask him a question, well, you're better than me, so why are you asking me? Well, that's no attitude to have. I mean, there's a lot of people better than I am, and I want to learn from them. I'm supposed to go to the store. I like your content. Thanks for being nice and responsive. I subscribe. Have a great afternoon. Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate you coming in. Everybody's always welcome in. We welcome new people. This is a great community, a great family. Bone Dead Heathens, that's my wife. County Seat Adventures with Ken and T. They're our family in Wisconsin. Sue is a sweetheart. She's family. Everybody in here, we don't call each other a community. We call each other family, because that's what we are, a big treasure family. And no matter if you metal detect, magnet fish, dumpster dive, mudlark, or if you just like being part of the stream, you're part of the family. We do lives on Wednesday nights. So at 6 p.m. Central Time, you're welcome to come in for that. But I'm probably going to have to get off here in just a little bit since I've got somebody showing up that I may have to fight. Yeah, I don't know yet what's going to happen with that guy. Man, he's got the energy. A lot of people in here know Beard Light. He actually was on the live stream last Wednesday for a little bit while I was still grilling. Risha's putting snail trails in. Thank you, T. Yeah, there's a lot of incredible people in this community. Try to look out for each other, help each other, and that's what it's all about. I'm in the Red Corners team. Yep, Sue. And Risha and I are hoping to come across the pond maybe next year. We just have to see. Hopefully within the next 2 years we can make it over there. So many people we want to meet when we get over there. The only thing is we're going to have to figure out how long to stay because we're done decided 2 weeks probably isn't going to be long enough. Maybe we can spend 3 weeks or a month over there. Ray and Dave has welcomed us with open arms. Ray said he would show us around, take us to meet people and meet up with people when they're magnet fishing so we can meet a lot of people in the community over there. A lot of those people watch our shows and we watch them, and some of the things you find over there we just don't have here, but then again some of the things we find here you don't have there. I remember, I think that was a bird. I got a little wren that likes to build nests in here, and a lot of times she'll come in and get like 2 feet away and sit there and gripe at me because I'm in here. Thank you, T. And first railroad spike Dave found, he was beside himself because that was a bucket list for him, finding a railroad spike over here. And to us, the railroad spike's something we find commonly. But like they find a lot of coins and some World War I and II stuff over there that we just don't have here. Would have a guaranteed bed and breakfast. Oh, Sue, that would be awesome. Thank you, Ken. Yeah, I can't wait to see you again too, brother. We're still undecided on how long we're staying next year. Haha, better than the dumb chipmunks that get in ours. They're awful. Yeah, that's what Ray was saying. And even when we go to Wisconsin and find the railroad plates, those railroad plates are about half of the size of the railroad plates we find here in Missouri. First one I pulled out, and Clay's like, yep, that's a regular railroad plate. And I'm like, not where I'm come from, that's half a railroad plate. But I've been on here for almost an hour and 15 minutes. I was going to clean the shop up, but then I got to talking, and I hope you all enjoyed everything I showed you and some of the explanations of the stuff, because there is a lot of work that goes into making these things. I know when Forged in Fire first come out, that drove up the price of anvils. It drove up the price of everything because they make it look so easy. And they got all those fancy tools, and then when people go spend all this money for an anvil and for a forge and for a sander, and some of them, you know, presses and power hammers and things, then they go, hey, that ain't as easy as it looks on the show. They did all that in 2 hours. Well, they did it in 2 hours because they got all that fancy machinery. You're welcome, Charlie, and thank you for coming in. Yeah, I think I'll get off here. 32 thumbs up, 18 incredible people still in here. We do love each and every one of you. And if you haven't subscribed and you're new in here, please subscribe. We appreciate it. And the thumbs up help get that algorithm going so we can reach more people and welcome more people into our family. You guys are awesome. Mr. Jody, at some point, Risha and I is going to try to come down your direction, spend a weekend or something with you and Kat. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you dropping by, Brockton. And don't forget, if you want to come back up Wednesday, you know you're always welcome. Enjoy visiting with you. Have a great time. And if I can figure out how to close this thing down, we're going to get off here. Much love to each and every one of you. I gotta figure out how to close this out. That's not it. There's an X, maybe that works. Love you all, thank you. Hi Jim Steele, appreciate it. You have a great day too. Bye everybody.